Hey everybody, welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. I'm Rockin Robbie Billups, and it's time for the weekly comic book review. That's right everybody, thanks for checking out the video. I am Rockin Robbie Billups. Happy Halloween, and it's time for the weekly comic book review. It's the show where I read a lot of comic books, and I'll let you know what I thought about them, and we always start with the pick of the week. This week's pick of the week, Joker Killer Smile, #1 from DC Black Label, Jeff Lemire, Andrea Sorrentino, Jordi Belair. This book is absolutely fantastic. I love it. It's not really set in continuity. Maybe it is. Doesn't really matter. It's DC Black Label. DC Black Label has a lot of books out this week. They've already had some smash hits before. I think right now, this is the best DC Black Label book I have ever read. It's Lemire, it's Sorrentino, you know it's going to be great, right? The highly acclaimed, especially by me, creative team behind books like Gideon Falls, right? Absolutely a fantastic book. It's psychological, it's scary, it's disturbing, it's atmospheric, it's moody. It's basically about this dude who is like a psychiatrist or something, and he's trying to cure the Joker. Or at least he thinks he can. He thinks he can shield his own mind and his own life from the influence of the Joker. Well, maybe that's not how exactly it's going to turn out. But this book is chilling and just fantastic. Great Halloween reading. In fact, there's a lot of great Halloween reading. But Joker Killer Smile, it's Lemire, it's Sorrentino, and I'm telling you, this book is awesome. Best DC Black Label book I've read so far. A great use of the space and the new format. I love it. Fantastic book. Nice package. Joker Killer Smile. Do not miss this one. It's on fire. Let's talk about some of those other DC Black Label books debuting today. Basketful of Heads is here. Another Halloween-appropriate comic book. It's written by Joe Hill. You'll know Joe Hill is a very successful horror author and, of course, the son of Stephen King. Basketful of Heads got artwork by Leah Max and Dave Stewart on the coloring. It's an interesting story. It's just barely getting started in the first issue. The first issue was dense. There's a lot of character work, a lot of introductions, a lot of stuff like that, but the main gist of the story hasn't quite seemed to have happened yet. This book has a very slow pace, at least at first. It still feels very exposition heavy at times, though I did enjoy it. The dialogue was fine. The story, the way it all paced out, was really, really interesting. It's just you don't quite get into what the actual hook of this book is yet. That's my only problem with it. Aside from that, I really did like it. Solid artwork and a really great, solid story, but not supremely atmospheric yet, but we're still just barely getting started on this one. But Basketful of Heads, starting Joe Hill's Hill House Comics, which is going to be a series of horror-infused DC Black Label books coming out over the next couple months. The Last God, #1, is out this week from DC Black Label. It's written by Philip Kennedy Johnson. Philip Kennedy Johnson, that's fantastic. And Riccardo Federici on the artwork. The artwork is stunning in this book. It is beautiful. It is glorious. A lot of times you see an artist like this, you're like, this typically is going to be a cover artist, right? And maybe their storytelling, techniques are not the best or something. No, this book is fantastic. The artwork is so strong, so solid, and like I said, absolutely stunning. The story is pretty decent. It's a setup from some kind of big epic fantasy thing that they're building. This says it's book 1 of the Fellspire Chronicles, so a lot more, I believe, is going to be planned out from book 1. Lots of information, lots of exposition, lots of lore, lots of world building just kind of thrown in there, and kind of comes across a little unclear to me. Definitely, I think this warrants a second read. The book itself was cool. It's got a nice hook by the end of it. The artwork is just stunning. You're going to love it just for the artwork. But the story itself, though, and I'm not, the biggest fantasy fan, so maybe if you're more into fantasy, you'll be more attuned to it. But to me, it was just a little too much, too soon. But I definitely got to step back and do a reread of this week to see how it actually kind of settles on me. But fantasy fans definitely want to check that out, and art fans. The art is fantastic in that. The Sandman Universe Presents Hellblazer. That's right, Hellblazer is back, not at Vertigo, but at DC Black Label, the new Vertigo, basically. So Hellblazer is back, going back to the roots of the Vertigo Hellblazer series. It's tied in a little bit with what's going on in the Sandman universe, I guess. I don't know, I stopped reading those ones, decided to trade weight them. Now those trades are out, and I got to get caught up. But I am a big fan of John Constantine. I was very excited to see when John Constantine's in the DC universe. I like it, and it's cool, but the character is never quite the Constantine that he is in his own book, which of course was the Vertigo Hellblazer. I love lots of the runs in that Hellblazer book. This has a nice little feel to it. It's got an interesting story twist and how it's working and where John's coming from and how he's back and this and that. And there's a lot of interesting stuff there. The book itself just feels, it doesn't feel completely clear, and it doesn't quite pull me in completely, but it did do a decent job of kind of setting up Constantine, who he is, and him dealing with his personality, right? Rebuilding that world around Constantine. I don't know. It's just an opening shot. There's a series coming soon, next month, I believe. But anyway, this is going to be the very beginning of it. So Hellblazer fans, Constantine fans, you're definitely going to want to check this one out. To me, it was okay. It was decent, but I definitely am excited to see what's going to be coming next in the world of Hellblazer. Also from DC Black Label, Harleen #2. I wasn't quite sold on issue #1. I really did not like issue #2. Harley Quinn fans, Joker fans, fans of the Harley-Joker whole relationship type thing, you're really going to like this one. Stefan Sejic doing the artwork, doing the writing. Me, though, I'm just not the biggest Harley Quinn fan, and this is a more elaborate, more in-depth origin story for Harley Quinn, and that's kind of interesting. The artwork is pretty solid throughout the entire issue. It's exactly what you would expect, but for me, it just doesn't grab me in. It doesn't feel like it's doing anything impactful. That's just me. I think a lot of people are going to like this book, but Harleen, I don't know, it's just not working for me. And then I got a note right here to remind myself to talk about Tales from the Dark Multiverse, Death of Superman. It's the second Tales from the Dark Multiverse one-shot comic book coming out, basically DC's version of What If. The Death of Superman one is out this week. I have read it, but I don't have a copy here because my comic shop was shorted. Fortunately, I was able to get on Diamond's site and get a preview copy, and I did get to read that, and I tell you, it's really, really fun. I think I actually like the story of this one better than the Nightfall one, and I thought the Nightfall was really cool. Dark, twisted, alternate takes on popular events in DC. This one is kind of more about Lois's grieving after the death of Superman, and maybe she takes things just a bit too far, but I really like that one, so be on the lookout for that. That's in shops this week. DCeased #6 is here. This is the final issue of Tom Taylor's tale of terror throughout the DC universe. The anti-life equation takes over. It's basically zombies and stuff like that, and we've just had the most tragic event happen at the end of last issue, and this is a very tragic ending with a little tinge of hope, but an absolutely fantastic ending. Taylor and company have nailed the ending. DCeased has been really fun, and what's really cool and separates it from something like Marvel Zombies is that this definitely has the emotional impact and resonance that something like Marvel Zombies kind of lacked, because that book was fun and silly, at least to me. DC's kind of was a bit more grounded, a bit more horrific, a bit more chilling, right? And it worked perfectly. Look at that variant cover of a Zombie Darkseid. Zombie Darkseid kind of just looks like Darkseid. Anyway, DC's #6 out this week. Fantastic. Bunch of annuals from DC out this week. Wonder Woman, Batman and the Outsiders. My shop was shorted the Batman and the Outsiders one, so I didn't get to read that one. There's a Batman annual. It's written by Tom King with artwork by Mike Norton and Jorge Fornes. The artwork throughout the entire issue is solid, and the story is fantastic. When Tom King hits on Batman, he hits really hard sometimes. Sometimes, though, when he misses really hard. This one, to me, is a hit. It's a nice one-shot story, not connected to anything that's been going on in Batman or is going to be going on in Batman, but a nice story about Alfred's take on Bruce's journey and what it's like to be Batman every day. I really like this issue. Great one-shot story. If you just want a nice, fun, great Batman story that's going to remind you why you like Batman so much, check out Batman Annual #4. I really like that. Also, DC's released some more of those 100-page giants, including an Aquaman one. Worth it for the price alone for that Liam Sharp cover. Look at that. That's amazing. Also, they got a Ghost 100-page giant special out this week. Very appropriate for Halloween, paired up with the Scooby-Doo one that was released earlier in the month, and you and your kids can have a nice, fun, haunted Halloween comic book reading time, right? Just an idea. I do it with my cats every year. Anyway, let's jump over to Marvel. Excalibur #1 is here. It's the dawn of X. We have X-Men, we have Marauders, now we have Excalibur. What's interesting about Excalibur is it's Apocalypse, so you got to see a little bit more of Apocalypse's role in the whole Krakoan House of X situation. Betsy now appears to be Captain Britain. How does that come about? You find out in here. How does this team of X-Men like Jubilee and Gambit and Rogue, some fan favorites. I'm a big fan of Jubilee. By the way, there's a Big League Chewing Gum Jubilee variant. by Mike Del Mundo, I believe. Fantastic. Anyway, this was an interesting idea. I like this new spin and take on magic and the X universe and Apocalypse's role there. I really like some of the back matter, some of the data pages are really fantastic and very interesting. So I like the approach. The execution to me just felt a little bit stiff, very exposition heavy, kind of verbose at times. It didn't really ever quite capture me. There's some really great moments in here, especially involving Apocalypse. I'm going to keep with this for a little bit to see if it evens out, because it is an interesting story. All the events make sense. It's interesting, but to me, it's not as solid of a start as the Marauders was last week. So to me, it was just a little bit of a letdown, but there are some interesting ideas, some interesting concepts, and Teenie Howard knows exactly how to write Apocalypse, and I love it. I love it. That stuff's fantastic. So it's going to keep me interested in it for just a little bit, but it's kind of got to pick up the steam and be a little bit more engaging if it really wants to completely engage me. Tom Scioli is here with Fantastic Four Grand Design #1. So if you checked out Ed Pisker's work on X-Men Grand Design, you know that it's basically taking all the ideas, all the continuity of Fantastic Four, and throwing it together in a really fun, silly, very informative way, right? So just like X-Men Grand Design, this takes the Fantastic Four story and it just lays it out in all these small little panels, and it rebuilds their world and tells their story, and it does it with a very fun and at times irreverent attitude towards the books, but it's also very much a tribute to Jack Kirby and Stan Lee's and others' work on the Fantastic Four. I'm a huge Fantastic Four fan. I've been waiting for this, eagerly anticipating it. Tom Scioli, we've talked about him before on the channel, especially when he did his GoBot series. I adore his style. It's not going to be for everyone. It's kind of like a teenage Jack Kirby drawn in his high school notebook or something like that. That's how I always describe it. But I absolutely love it. This is a nice tribute to the legacy of the King and the Man and the Four. I really liked it. Thought it was fantastic. So excited for that. I'm glad that they did Fantastic Four post X-Men instead of jumping into something maybe that would have been a bit more popular like Spider-Man, though a Spider-Man Grand Design would be cool. But this is really cool, and as Scioli points out in this book, the story of the Fantastic Four is the story of the Marvel Universe. There you go. Marvel Zombies Resurrection. So Marvel Zombies are back. And as much as I like the old school Marvel Zombie stuff, of course it was Sean Phillips, it was Robert Kirkman. It's fun, it's silly though, right? So this is a complete reboot of the concept of Marvel Zombies. So it basically, like Marvel Zombies was the Marvel Universe of its time, and then they all became zombies. That's kind of like what this is for the Marvel Universe in 2019, right? So it's a complete reboot. So even if you've never read any Marvel Zombie stuff, it doesn't matter, you can read this. And this is a reboot that I actually think is better than the original. This does have a little bit of that emotional resonance. It does have a bit more sense of urgency about it. I actually really like this one. Written by Philip Kennedy Johnson, who also wrote The Last God that we were talking about. Leonard Kirk, Guru Effects on the artwork. Really like the artwork. I really like the rebuilding of the concept of the idea, and I think it works, and it works really cool. It's got some nice big shocking moments and some real fun stuff involving Galactus. Definitely check it out if you're a fan of the old school Marvel Zombies, or if you're just looking for some kind of Marvel Halloween-y type thing. Marvel Zombies Resurrection #1, first part of a probably 5 or 6 issue series. I think it's 5, I'm not sure completely, but I really liked it. Red Goblin Red Death #1 is here. This is a one-shot comic that's going to go back on Norman Osborn's time as the Red Goblin when he had the Carnage symbiote. We're dealing with ramifications from that in Absolute Carnage, of course, these days. But the Red Goblin was fun. It was an interesting idea. Carnage meets Green Goblin. What happens? Well, it's Halloween time, so let's put together a one-shot comic book. It's got 3 stories from Norman's time, so they're all set in the past, and they all just kind of fill in some gaps here and there, just do their own thing. But they're interesting and they're fun. Patrick Gleason wrote one of them, and that's really nifty. But if you're a huge Red Goblin fan, definitely snatch it up. If you want something neat for Halloween, like Marvel-wise, I'd recommend this one, but check that one out, though, if you're a big Spidey, Norman, Carnage, Red Goblin fan. Ultimately, though, nothing in here super matters, but it's just some fun Norman, Red Goblin, Carnage, just slayage. Fun stuff. Speaking of Carnage, Absolute Carnage rolls on through with Venom #19. This is the final issue of Venom tying into Absolute Carnage. Now we just got the final issue left. I'm very excited to see how it's all going to wrap up. The Venom story wrapped up rather splendidly, in my opinion. I think Donny Cates and company have been doing a great job with the series. It's gotten a little wild, a little rambunctious, of course, with all the absolute carnage stuff going on, but this book has managed to still keep a thread of mystery and the typical themes that are approached in the book Venom, kept it going along. Some interesting developments are happening in this issue. I loved it. I thought it was great, and a really interesting setup for what's to come. Because I don't know what's to come, but there's some craziness coming in Venom, courtesy of Donny Cates and company. Also, Donny Cates releases the final issue of Silver Surfer Black this week. A splendid, once again, that's the word for Donny Cates books this week. A splendidly awesome ending. Rambunctious, fun, out there, cosmic, wild, wraps around itself. I really like this book. The book of Silver Surfer getting flung through a black hole into the past. He comes across Null, he comes across Ego, and now it all comes full circle. I loved it. It's a nice story of redemption, of overcoming the blackness, or the darkness, I would rather say, the darkness and the despair inside of us, right? Fantastic book, great themes, and the artwork by Tradd Moore. Oh my goodness. And each issue of this has been crazy. It's been Kirby awesome, cosmic weirdness. This issue goes even beyond that, and it's so excellently done. Fantastic. Silver Surfer Black, number 5, a great final issue. Speaking of final issues, the final issue of Dead Man Logan is here. Feels like this took a while. Of course, it was 12 issues, and they were, for the most part, monthly, right? Anyway, Ed Brisson's been doing a great job since he's taken over the character and the journey of Old Man Logan, now Dead Man Logan. So he's back in the Wasteland. He's on his final mission. He's coming up against Sabretooth. He's setting up the next generation of the Wasteland's heroes. This is a great, solid, supremely solid issue. Do you remember when they did the Death of Wolverine stuff a few years back and how it kind of just was a dud, right? Like, and I did not like the Death of Wolverine stuff. This is the Death of Wolverine done right. Dead Man Logan. No spoilers, but the book is called Dead Man Logan, and it's the final issue. But it's touching, and it's heartwarming, and it was an absolute perfect cap to this absolutely stunning character study that Ed Brisson has done on the character of Old Man Logan. Hats off to you. Fantastic stuff. Dead Man Logan, number 12 out this week. And Mike Henderson, Nolan Woodard on the artwork. Doing a pretty good job on that one as well. Riri Williams, Ironheart, number 11 is here. The penultimate issue of this series, though don't worry. I hear rumors that they're already planning on it coming back, giving Eve Ewing, the writer, just a little bit of time to get that going, right? I absolutely love this book. Riri Williams is an interesting character. When she was created by Bendis, I thought she was all right and it was cool. But what Ewing has done with the character is really solidified her place to me in Marvel, and I really like it. I love all the throwbacks to New Warriors. You got Midnight's Fire, you got Silhouette in these issues, you got lots of Wakandan stuff in here, including the Dora Milaje and Shuri. Fantastic stuff. I really like this issue. I really like this mystery, and I really like the build-up and the cliffhanger ending. It has me oozing in anticipation for issue number 12. Riri Williams' Ironheart has been one of the best low-key Marvel books on shelves over the last year. Fantastic. Invisible Woman number 4, the penultimate issue of this miniseries, kind of spotlighting Sue's time as a spy, apparently. So it's been interesting. It's been fun. It's a nice, fun spy thriller. It's got great, fantastic artwork by Mattia D. Iluis. A fantastic art. The artwork in this book is so... I almost showed you just a picture of blackness, of darkness. But absolutely fantastic stuff right there. I love the artwork. Story's pretty decent. It's nothing that's going to change your life, but it's a nice, fun spy thriller involving Susan, and it's nice to see Susan Richards, you know, get the spotlight in her own series. I think that's her very first and only solo series. I think every other member of the Fantastic Four have had one, except for her. Even Luke Cage and She-Hulk, of course, right? Conan the Barbarian, issue number 10 is here. We're nearing the end of Jason Aaron's 12-part story, The Life and Death of Conan, or whatever it's called. And in this issue, lots of explaining, lots of stuff coming full circle, lots of knowledge you previously weren't privy to, coming back, letting you know what's going on. Really fun stuff. I'm not the hugest fantasy, swords and sorcery kind of guy. Not the biggest Conan the Barbarian fan. But Jason Aaron's run with Mahmoud Asrar and especially Matthew Wilson, Matt Wilson's colors are fantastically amazing. Conan the Barbarian number 10, yet another solid issue. Let's move over to Vault Comics. Vault Comics has an exceptional week this week. Let's talk about it. The Plot number 2 is here. This is horror and comic books done right. It's Halloween week, so of course lots of exciting horror, Halloween-themed comic books are on shelves right now. If I recommend one it's the plot. The plot is fantastic. It's chilling, it's creepy, it's atmospheric, it's moody. The artwork by Joshua Hickson and Jordan Boyd provide that textured, gritty, eerie, surreal atmosphere to the book. Fantastic stuff, right? Tim Daniel, Michael Morisi, absolutely nailing this book. Tonally, character-wise, pacing-wise, the entire team's doing such a great job. Vault has now taken a deep dive into horror, and I'm right along there with you, just diving down. Just give me more. I love it. The Plot #2 is out this week. It's a fantastic book. I highly recommend it. And if you haven't gotten a chance to check out issue #1, there's a second print of issue #1 out this week as well, so be on the lookout for that. Speaking of Michael Morisi, him and Gary Doberman have a book called Maul. Maul #3 is out from Vault Comics this week. Frantic, revelatory, exciting, really cool stuff. It's about what would happen at the end of the world if people held up in a mall and then they just survived there for a while and built a society. What would that society be like? It's kind of like Mad Max and the Warriors meets Dawn of the Dead without the zombies. I did advanced reviews of both of these books, so check that out for a little bit more of me just rambling and raving about how awesome these books are. But Maul #3 was fantastic, some really cool stuff. The final issue of Test is out this week. Starts off really strong. Very excited to see how this book is going to end. And I would love to tell you my thoughts on the end of Test, but I can't because my copy of Test goes for a bit, right? And then it starts repeating its pages. And I was like, oh no, what's going on? So it gets to a bit, then it starts repeating the page. See, there's the cover again, right? So it goes through, and then the whole last half of this book is just all the back matter stuff and repeats of the back cover. So I don't have like the back 2/3 of this book. So hopefully that's not line wide, so I'll have to go to my shop in the morning and read this, and then I'll let you know exactly what I think about Test. But from the first like 8 pages or whatever that I read that was in here, I liked it. I've been liking this book a lot, so I'm excited for the ending. It does end this week, but I would suggest that you flip through your copy and make sure you just don't get this never-ending preview of Black Stars Above, which is a great comic book coming out in November, but it's all just, that's all it is. That's crazy. That's crazy. Maybe I got some kind of 1 in a million variant or something like that. Wouldn't that be cool? Speaking of Vault Comics and great comics, Relics of Youth #2 is out this week. This book had a great start, and it has an even better second issue. The second issue keeps that momentum going, really picking up the pace, really explaining things in a non-exposition-y way, getting to know the characters a little bit more, the relationships. It's all kinetic. The whole gist of the story starts becoming clear and concise, and it's just very, very fun. Relics of Youth is basically about this group of young people that have these like triangle tattoos, and they're all lured together to come together and travel into the Bermuda Triangle to find the Fountain of Youth. And of course, other people are after it. There's a lot of mystery, a lot of Indiana Jones type stuff, but with a very youthful feel to it. Relics of Youth #2 was solid. I absolutely love it. It's written by Matt Nicholas and Chad Redman, with artwork by Skylar Patridge, Vladimir Popov on the coloring and world design on the lettering. This book is really cool. I like it a lot. Speaking of Vault, like I said, a big week for Vault again. Queen of Bad Dreams, issue #5. This is the final issue of Queen of Bad Dreams, written by Danny Lore, artwork by Jordi Perez, colors by Dirbala Kelly, and world design doing the lettering. The team has done an absolutely fantastic job with this. It's basically, this has been a story about a woman who can police dreams, right? Because in this world, dream figments can escape from dreams and exist in the real world. So she's part of this agency that determines whether they should go back into the dreamer, whether they should be given autonomy and live in society, or whether they should be completely destroyed. So it gets involved in this like big political scheme and scandal and drama and all this stuff, and the ending is completely nailed. It all comes to a head, it all comes to fruition. Danny Lore, the writer, they have done an absolutely fantastic job building up this world. It's very imaginative. The artwork has been very kinetic and dynamic, and the colors have provided such a texture, and the colors are the best of the series in issue #5. It gets really cool and refreshingly psychedelic for me. Queen of Bad Dreams #5. Can't recommend it enough. Also, speaking of Vault, Necromancers Map #3. It's the 3rd part of the 2nd book of Songs for the Dead. I love this book, this tale of a necromancer and a gang of misfits trying to find, this golden city or something like that. Really great stuff. Revelations in this issue. Lots of stuff gets explained. Lots of relationships get strengthened. Real fun stuff. If you like light, fantasy, check out Necromancer's Map. I say light fantasy. I don't know what that means. I don't know the difference. I'm not a fantasy guy. Is it light fantasy just kind of like, I don't know. I don't know. It's fantasy, and it's good. I like it. So there you go. Speaking of Vault, did you know they got this this trade paperback out? My bad. I can't speak tonight. These Savage Shores is now available in trade paperback at your local comic shop. This is one of the best books of the year. I'm sure you're going to see this on lots of top 10 lists at the end of the year, and I'm including mine, I'm sure. These Savage Shores, Ram V. Sumit Kumar, Aditya Bidikar, Vittorio Stoney, a brilliant creative team, one of the best comic books. It's one of the best vampire comic books I've ever read, and it's so much more than a vampire comic book. These Savage Shores, if you haven't read it, if you've been trade waiting it, wait no longer, get it. It's a perfect book for Halloween. It's like they all timed this on purpose. Mad Cave Studios gives us Woven Heart, #1, a great book for Halloween. So basically it's about, it's kind of like Doctor Who meets monster hunting, in a way, okay? That's how I would describe it without spoiling too much from the book. But it's basically about this werewolf hunter, monster hunter, and they're also time travelers, right? And there's some interesting things. There's some characters pulled from fiction and from history, kind of throwing it together in a League of Extraordinary Gentlemen-esque style. What this feels like to me is a good version of the movie Van Helsing. That's what it felt like to me. And I mean that as a high compliment. Mad Cave Studios, Woven Heart #1, out this week. Pretty solid. Really liked it. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers #44 with the Yellow Ranger foil cover. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers has taken such a turn for the best in the last few months. This book has been fantastic. Ryan Parrott and company have come in and just made this an absolute must-read. Introduced new lore, new concepts, new Rangers, new Zords. The Omega Zords, y'all, are in this issue. I hope they combine. And I want a toy. Anyway, as a Power Rangers fan, I eat this stuff up. It's fantastic. It's also just great character work. Like I said, a great way of taking and respecting a franchise like Power Rangers, but adding so much nuance and depth and dimension to it, as far as characterization and as far as the mythology and lore of Power Rangers. Fantastic work. Power Rangers has been supremo. From IDW, we have Star Wars Adventures #27. Don't usually read this book. It's a kind of all-ages sci-fi, it's all-ages Star Wars book, right, that IDW puts out. But Michael Morisi did the second story in here, which is a C-3PO, BB-8, and R2-D2 story. So it's a droid story by Michael Morisi. I'm a huge fan of Michael Morisi's work. I know he's a huge fan of Star Wars, so whenever he gets a chance to write something Star Wars, I pay attention. Real fun, light, neat, fun story. If you like droids, you're going to like it. If you like the old school droid stuff, it looks like the old school cartoons. It looks like the old comic. It's silly. It's fun. I really liked it. Michael, you did a great job. Flight of the Falcon, too. If you've never read that, Michael Morisi did a series of stories called Flight of the Falcon for Star Wars Adventures. It's now completed, completely collected in a graphic novel. You should definitely check that out. From Valiant, we have Roku #1. She's some kind of BA assassin or something, kind of like Medusa from the Marvel Universe. Her hair grows and she can manipulate it and kill people with it. I'm written by Cullen Bunn, but it didn't really do much for me. The artwork was okay. The book just kind of felt a little generic. It never really engaged me, never really got its nails and its teeth into me. So this is one I read, and I'm like, it's okay. It's a great cover, though, but the book is just okay. Manor Black, issue #4, though, speaking of Cullen Bunn, nailed the ending. An absolutely fantastic ending. Manor Black has been a really fun book. It's a 4-issue miniseries. To me, it felt like 4 issues wasn't enough. Well, I'm not trying to spoil anything, but I bet there's more coming, and I could not be more excited. Brian Hurt, Cullen Bunn, and Tyler Crook. Tyler Crook's artwork has been amazing. This book does a great job of bringing this arc to a close, but really setting up a whole bunch of story to come, and I hope we get more Manor Black very, very soon. Speaking of Cullen Bunn again, Knight's Temporal is here with issue #4, a big explainy issue, a big turning point in the story. I've been liking this. It's about a knight from back in the day who goes into this magically enchanted forest, and he basically gets splintered and fractured throughout time. So there's multiple versions of him, but only one magic sword. So for instance, if he's in the 20th century fighting and he needs a sword and he pulls it, but the dude in the 18th century, is got that sword, it goes away and goes to the other guy. So really cool concepts, really cool ideas, a neat, fun book that I've really been enjoying. You don't hear too much about Knight's Temporal, but I think it's pretty solid. Really cool stuff. I really do like it. The artwork started so solid. It gets a little bit more frantic. It feels a little bit rushed, but it does kind of even back out in issue number 4 for me from issue number 3. But nice temporal, really cool concept, and a very flawless execution pretty much. Hellboy into BPRD. Let's talk about this. Long Night at Golowski Station. This is a one-shot Hellboy tale with lots of callbacks to other Hellboy tales, including Witchfinder. But this book is fantastic, and it's always great to have a Halloween Hellboy book to read. A perfect week for it. Hellboy is one of my absolute favorite comic books of all time. It's like Fantastic Four, and then like Hellboy, and then The Invisibles, right? That's like my top 3. Hellboy is amazing. I love Mike Mignola and everything he does. Matt Smith, Dave Stewart, they do a great job on the artwork. It's chilling, it's pacing. If you've never read a Hellboy book, give it a shot. It's not the best Hellboy story out there, but it's damn good, and it's chilling, and it's atmospheric, and maybe it'll give you a tinge of the idea of why we love Hellboy so much. And if you love Hellboy as much as we do, check out this Thursday on Halloween, Comics Revisited returns for a Halloween special where me and Brooks are going to be talking about, you guessed it, Hellboy. Anyway, if you're on our Patreon, patreon.com/PCP, you have access to that video right now, including early access to the weekly comic book review in an audio-only file. You get hours before it releases on the channel. Anyway, that's what I read. That's what I thought about it. What are you reading? What gets you excited? Let us know in the comments down below. Let's keep the conversation going about comic books, pop culture, and a whole lot more. Thank you for watching the video. Please do like, share, and subscribe, and check us out over at popculturephilosophers.com for podcasts and a whole lot more. I've been Rockin Robbie Billups. Happy Halloween. Thanks for rocking with us. Keep on reading.